Hey everybody, and welcome to Josh Lioce's video blog. This week we're talking about owner's title insurance. What is it and why you need it? Stay right here, we'll be right back. Okay, everybody, welcome back to this week's episode. Something that's come up a lot recently in regards to some transactions we were doing with buyers, as well as running into some issues with sellers during a transaction. And the question of title insurance came up, and I've never really done a video about this. So we invited our special guest, an esteemed colleague and a sponsor of our show, attorney Ariel Chikala, to come in and talk with us in regards to owner's title. What is it? Why you need it? So Ariel, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Josh. It's always a pleasure.
So today's topic is obviously an area of your expertise. So what I'd really like you to do is tell our viewers just what is owner's title and what is title insurance in general, and why is it important to have it?
Sure. So title insurance is, it's like other types of insurance. It's a policy that you get when you purchase a home that protects you against any defects in the title that might be discovered later in time. When you are selling a property in Massachusetts, you have the obligation to deliver your buyer what's called clear title. And if there's something in the written record of the property, which is what we call the title, so that's the written record of the property going back at least 50 years, every time somebody's bought, sold, had a mortgage, had a tax lien, all of those papers together compile the title. And if there's any issue with the way that that was done over time, the title insurance company will actually insure the title that you have, so that if you run into a problem later on, they are on the hook for making sure that it gets fixed, so that one day you can give your buyers clear title when you go to sell.
So I guess one of the situations that came up that I was dealing with was someone thought that they had title insurance. And I asked them to pull their closing documents from a few years back, and all they had was lender's coverage, or lender's a bank's policy for title insurance. So can you kind of tell us the difference between the owner's policy and the lender's policy, and how that happens throughout the transaction, and when is there a choice to be made? Kind of just get into that a little bit.
Absolutely. So right now, if you're working with a lender, you're going to get what's called a loan estimate right at the beginning of the transaction, after you have an accepted offer, and probably right around the time you're signing the purchase and sale agreement. So when you see your closing costs itemized out, you'll see one quote for lender's title insurance, and you'll see one quote for owner's title insurance. And you'll see the word optional by the owner's title insurance policy. So a lender will never lend you money without you paying for a lender's policy of title insurance on behalf of the lender. So that should kind of, be a little bit of a heads up to people of how important it actually is, because the lender always wants to have it. But the lender's policy doesn't cover you. The lender's policy is only to protect the lender in case there's a foreclosure later on, if they have to foreclose on you, so that they know that they have clear title, if they have to take the property back. But the owner's policy is separate and distinct, and it actually, when you pay for the lender's policy and the owner's policy at the same time, which most people do when they close, you get a pretty substantial discount for doing both together. And so most of the times you have to actually opt out of the owner's title insurance by telling the person that you're closing with that you don't want the owner's policy. But it's always a really great question to ask when you're moving through the process, to make sure that that premium is in there for you, and that it's being factored into your closing costs when you close.
So I guess a really good question to ask you is, if, or maybe even an overview of the situation, I'm going to say, we had a client, for example, who had an issue with some previous, the payoffs in the transaction, and then they couldn't find something in regards to, the transfer from an estate to them. Normally in this situation, they were going to have to hire someone to go and fix this title issue, correct? Now,
Correct.
if they have title insurance, that insurance policy is going to pay for that work that needs to be done. But if they don't, then they're paying out of pocket.
That's exactly right. And I actually have a really great example for this. because it can be hard to understand how title insurance works. And people think, well, if it's optional, if I don't have to pay for it, why should I pay for something else when I'm already going through this really expensive process? So thinking about title insurance like homeowners insurance, let's say, you have a tree branch, it falls, it just breaks a window, it does a little bit of damage, not a big deal. You go into your own pocket and, you fix it, no, not a problem. That could be a situation in the title insurance world, like you refinanced, or the person who's selling to you refinanced their property. They got a new loan and they forgot to record that piece of paper that showed the old loan was paid off. No problem. We track down that piece of paper, we get it recorded. Maybe a lawyer charges you $250 to do it. Not a big deal. You're not out of pocket a whole lot of money. On the other, and that's an example, by the way, that we see all of the time. And it's complicated by the fact that, that bank went out of business. So tracking down that piece of paper can be harder than you think. On the other end of the spectrum, in the homeowners insurance example, you, God forbid, have a house fire and your entire house burns to the ground. If you don't have a homeowner's insurance policy, you don't have a way to rebuild that house. You have a pile of ashes. In the title insurance world, that is analogous to, we find that somebody in the chain of title forged a deed. And you find this out because you actually bought the property, you opted out of buying owner's title insurance, and somebody knocks on your door serving you with a lawsuit saying, I actually own this house because the person who sold it to me, 3 owners back, forged that deed. That means that you, the owner, you thought you owned that house, but that deed was a forgery. So you actually don't own your home. The person who was supposed to have gotten the deed, 3 transactions back, owns the home. And so in the homeowner's insurance example, that is analogous to your entire house burning down and you don't have homeowner's insurance and you have nothing to show for the home that you bought because it actually belongs to somebody else. With title insurance, when you pay this premium, which is paid one time at closing, it's unlike many types of insurance that you have to pay, on a monthly or annual basis. This is a one-time cost. And for the, let's call it $1,200 owner's policy, that person is going to be protected up to the purchase price they paid for the house. So the title insurance company will step in, and if it was $500,000 that the old, the people who forged the deed were supposed to get, they will pay them $500,000 and you get to stay in your house. You don't have to participate in the litigation and you have somebody else who's on the hook paying for this mistake to be cleared up.
Well, it's an amazing, I guess it's a scary thing that this is actually, or can happen, especially when you consider that some of these properties, especially in New England, are hundreds of years old. There's been several deeds transferred throughout the years, and you could certainly run into this issue. So awesome information, a ton of information, ton of knowledge. I want to thank you for being here with us as always. If anyone would like to talk to Attorney Sakala a little bit more in regards to title insurance, even looking at their own home, looking at a title search, she is the best. We go to her for a million needs. So if you have any questions, reach out to me and I will put you in contact with her and connect you, and she'll be able to help and advise you. So Ariel, again, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Josh. I truly enjoyed it.
And thank you to everyone who watched today's episode. If you have any questions on this topic, like I said, reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with Ariel. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Josh Lioce's video blog.